Hi, good morning once again. This is Rajdeep here. I'm going to be your co-host today. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of ReWiser. And in today's webinar, first of all, thanks to Chaya ma'am for giving us this opportunity to talk to parents from Lakshya Academy. And in today's webinar, we are going to talk about SAT, ACTs, and AP exams. Just on a very, very broad high level, these are the exams that one has to write if you wish to pursue undergrad study predominantly in US. However, if you look at the trend, there are almost about 40 universities in India now which also accept SAT scores. So you can also use SAT scores to get admission in Indian universities as well. And apart from US, Canada, Singapore, Hong Kong, these are a few other places where you can also submit your SAT and ACT scores and get admitted to these universities in these countries as well, right? So we're going to talk about all of this. So in today's webinar, we'll talk about all of this for about first 30-35 minutes, and then we'll open it for a Q&A session where you guys can ask any questions related to SAT, ACT, AP, or study abroad per se, and then we'll try and answer most of your queries. We're also recording.
Sorry to interrupt you, but your voice has dropped down quite a bit. We're quite a little inaudible now.
Oh, is it? Is it for other people as well?
No.
Hello?
No. I can hear you. I can hear you.
It's audible for me.
Okay.
Okay. Fine. I'll just look into my audio. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
No problem. I'll connect my other AirPods as well. Yeah. I'm really sorry. My voice might be a bit coarse because I'm still COVID positive. So trying to do this.
Oh, okay. Sorry to hear that. No, I was. You were just audible. Before connecting the others into the meeting, and so I'm not sure what the problem was.
No problem. Yeah. Okay. So I'll try to be a bit more louder if that's the case. So yeah, in the first 35 minutes, I'm going to talk about SAT, ACT, and AP exam, and then I'll open it for a Q&A session. For the last 15-20 minutes, we'll open it for the questions. You can also ask your question right away, but please put it up in the chat section. Let's not disturb the flow while we are doing the presentation. I will ensure that I'll take up all the questions that you would have put up in the chat section, right? And towards the end, you can also wait for your question, and then you can directly ask in the Q&A also, right? Either ways, it's fine. With that, let me start with the presentation. So the key takeaways from today's webinars would be as follows. So we're going to talk about the standardized test, which is SAT, ACTs, and APs, how they are different from each other, who should take it, when should you take it, why should you take it, and things like that. What is the importance of SAT, ACT, AP for grade 9 to grade 12 students? What are the timelines for SAT, ACT, and AP with regards to the complete application planning? Because if you look at the study abroad, it's very different from our Indian entrances, from our Indian colleges. The way this entire application process goes on, it starts way ahead as compared to our Indian college entrances, right? And hence it's important to understand the timelines. Then what are the countries that accept SAT, ACT, and AP exams? What are the recommended timeline and pedagogy of preparation for the different tests? So these are the different takeaways from today's webinar that we are going to talk about. To quickly start, let me give you a brief about ReWiser. So we are a high school support company which assists students worldwide to achieve their high school academic goals. We largely cater to students from grade 9 to grade 12. Our area of expertise is the test prep solution. So we predominantly work with students who are looking to go abroad. And under that, in the standardized test, there are 3 major tests that comes in. One is the SAT, second is ACT, and third one is AP, which is the advanced placement courses. We have been in the market for almost about 6 years now. We have catered to about 3,500 students. In India, we have catered to about 15 plus cities and about 6 plus countries across the globe. That's who we are. Now, without taking much time, let me quickly deep dive into what SAT, ACTs are. So you guys must be aware about JEE and NEET and all these exams, right? So let me try and take a contrary viewpoint of what SAT, ACTs are as opposed to these exams, right? So SAT, ACTs are standardized tests which are needed for undergrad applicants. Unlike India, where let's say for engineering, you have JEE, for medicine, you have NEET. There, irrespective of any course that you apply to, you have to do SAT or ACT. Please remember, or, it's not and. right? You could do SAT or ACT. So these are two different companies which are fighting for the same set of students to write the exam. You could write the SAT or ACT. Colleges will accept both the scores equally well. They are needed by most of the four-year colleges. They help colleges determine the preparedness level for college level work. So basically the idea here is that they test you whether how ready the child is for the college level courses, right? That is what they're testing you on. Now, with regards to the content, what are they testing you on? Unlike our JEE and NEET, they're not testing you on maths, physics, chemistry, bio, and so on and so forth. They're purely testing you on two things, maths and English. That's it. So you call it as quant and verbal as well. It's mandatory for most of the US colleges. However, as I mentioned it earlier as well, there are many other geographies apart from US where it can also help, which is like Canada, Singapore, Hong Kong, Australia, where you can still submit the SAT scores and get admissions. Now, let's compare these two tests, right? What is SAT and what is ACT? So SAT is conducted by an organization called College Board. ACT is conducted by an organization called ACT.org. SAT happens 5 times a year, which is in the month of March, May, August, October, and December. And ACT, on the other hand, happens 7 times a year, which is in the month of Feb, April, June, July, September, October, and December. Now, this is one change, right? So if you have noticed our JEE, which obviously, earlier happened once a year, and then they started happening twice a year. Unlike here, it happens 5 times a year and 7 times a year. And the scores are also valid for 5 years. So a student who wants to apply after 3 years can actually write SAT this year and can apply with the same score after 3 years, right? So the scores are valid for 5 years, right? So you could do your SAT in grade 10th and apply in grade 12th, right? So that's another difference, which is not the case in your JEE and NEET, right? You have to write it in your grade 12th. So that's another difference here. With regards to the duration of the exam, SAT is a 3-hour long test. ACT, on the other hand, is a 3 hours, 40-minute test. We're talking about the sections that we have. In SAT, there are 4 major sections. The first section is reading section, which is the reading comprehension section, where you're basically reading the unseen passages and then answering the question. There are a total of 65 minutes. And in 65 minutes, you have to read 5 passages and you have to answer 52 questions. And these passages will vary from history, literature, social science, founding documents, sciences. So, it will vary from different zones, fiction. They're trying to test the understanding of student. How well can they understand the text? Will they be able to handle the text once they get into the college? That is what they're trying to test through this particular section. Then the second section that they have is the writing section. Don't go by the name. You don't have to write anything. It's basically a grammar section. There are a total of 44 questions and you have 35 minutes to do these questions. Now, every question that you will encounter there will have some error, which is a grammatical error, or it could be a rhetorical error. And you have to correct these errors, right? So that is what this writing section entails. And you will have 4 options out of which you have to select. So all the 4 sections, they're all multiple choice questions that you have to answer the question. And then there is no negative marking here. Then the third section that you have in your SAT is the math section. Maths without the calculator. That's the third section, wherein you have a total of 25 minutes and you have a total of 20 questions to solve this. And then the fourth section that you have is maths with calculator, wherein you have a total of 38 questions and you have a total of 55 minutes to solve these maths with calculator section. Right, so these are the 4 sections that you will encounter in your SAT exam. And as I said in the past, there is no negative marking. With regards to the scoring, how it works, your total score in SAT is out of 1600 points, out of which 800 is English and 800 is math. So reading is 400, writing is 400. That's a total of 800. And then maths is another 800. That's a total of 1600, right? That's how the scoring happens in case of SAT. Now, if you look at on the contrary side to the ACT, there are again 4 fixed section, which everyone has to take. And then there is one, which is an optional section, that is an essay section. So the first section that you will encounter in the ACT test will be the ACT English section. which is very similar to the writing section of SAT, which is predominantly testing you on the grammar rules. You'll be given total of 75 questions, and you have only about 45 minutes to solve these questions. Please note the time difference here. You have only 45 minutes to solve 75 questions, as opposed to SAT, where you had 35 minutes for solving 44 questions. Right? So ACT is much more time intensive here. So the questions in ACT are slightly easier as compared to SAT. However, you have to be a lot more quicker in the case of ACT than the SAT. That's another major difference. Then the second section that you have in ACT is the math section. And here you are allowed to use the calculator all throughout your math section, right? So there is no differentiation between no calculator and calculator here. That's another difference between SAT and ACT. So ACT with calculator here. Now, here you have a total of 60 questions and you have a total of 60 minutes. So 1 minute per question. And again, you have to be really quick, because if you look at it in SAT, you roughly had about 1.5 minutes per question. But here you only have about a minute per question. So there is a lot of time pressure in ACT. But again, as I said, the questions are a lot simpler as well. The third section that you have in ACT is the reading section, which is the reading comprehension section, which is similar to your SAT reading comprehension. Here you have a total of 4 passages. Every passage will have 10 questions. That's a total of 40 questions. You have about 35 minutes, and in 35 minutes, you have to solve 40 questions. So to read 4 passages and answer 40 questions. That's what you have in the reading comprehension sections. The fourth section, which is a very, very, a debatable section, is the science section. So a lot of people, come to me and ask me, Rajdeep, that, my child wants to do something in economics. So would it make sense to write ACT, because there's a science section there, right? And we have heard ACT is only for the students who wants to do something in science major, right? Or engineering or medicine. So that's a myth, because here the name obviously is a science section, but there is no science as such. You're still reading the passages and answering the question. So you're reading the science-based passages and you are answering the questions. So that is what the science section predominantly entails, right? So there are roughly about 6 to 7 passages that you're reading. There are a total of about 40 questions, and you have about 35 minutes. You have 35 minutes to solve 40 questions. That's what you have in the science section. And then the last section, which is the optional component, is the essay section, where the student, so there'll be a topic given and the student will have to write an essay on that particular topic, but it's an optional component. As of now, our philosophy or our recommendation to the student is to skip this section and not take it up. The reason being, up until last year, SAT also used to have the optional essay component, which is taken away by the college board. And there are a lot of actually other changes which has happened, and I'll try and talk about those as well slightly later. At that point of time, we used to ask students to write the essay as well. However, now there is no essay in the SAT component, and hence we recommend students to not to write it even if you decide to take the ACT. Now, with regards to the scoring, it's out of 36 points. Now, every section in ACT, which is English, maths, reading, and science, all of them is scored out of 36 points. And then the average of the 4 is found out. That becomes your final score. Now, how do they do it with 36? If there is a conversion table that works. For example, let's say in maths, you got a 56 out of 60. That might be equivalent to 34 out of 36 in one test, right? So that's how the conversion happens, and that varies from test to test. So it's not rigid and fixed as such. So that's how the ACT happens. So that's all about the ACT. Now, I think very, very important question that comes up is, and a lot of parents ask this question is, great, we understood both. Now, which one should we write? Which one should the child take up, right? Now, to answer that question, the best way to figure out which one you should write first is, where do you want to apply? If you want to apply predominantly to US, it does not really matter whether you write an SAT or an ACT. They both are equally acceptable by the colleges. And hence you don't have to worry about these 2 tests. Then the question comes in, out of SAT and ACT, which one is child more comfortable with, right? So for that, we at ReWiser offer a free diagnostic test to all the students. they should take one diagnostic for SAT, one for ACT, see for themselves which test are they more comfortable with. Are they comfortable with slightly difficult question, more time, or are they comfortable with the ACT type where you have less number of questions, more number of questions, but you also have less time to solve these questions, right? So that's something that they will have to sort of figure it out when they are writing these diagnostic tests, right? If in case you decide and you think that it's not just US, we are also looking at India as a geography to use the scores here, then in that case, it's only SAT, because ACT is predominantly for US. So if you're looking for other geographies as well, then maybe SAT is a better bet than ACT, right? So these are different factors that you should consider when you're deciding whether you should be doing an SAT or an ACT. I hope that answers a lot of questions. If there are questions, as I said in the past, please put it up in the chat section, and I'm happy to take up those questions as well. An important thing I want to add here is, especially about the SAT here, all the pattern that I've talked about. Fortunately, unfortunately, SAT is going a complete revamp, and starting March 2023 next year, SAT is changing the pattern completely, and it's going all digital. So far, SAT is a pen and paper test, and ACT is an online test. SAT is also going all digital, and it will reduce the duration of the test as well. So we have August, October, and December this year, which is happening on this particular pattern that I've just mentioned to you. Starting next year, March, the pattern itself is changing. And there are a lot of other things which are changing. So all the SAT details that I'm giving you is applicable only until end of this year. Please note that point. Now you must have heard about this exam called PSAT, and some of the schools actually are centers for PSAT. They ask students to register for these exams as well, which is called preliminary SAT or a practice SAT, right? It's more like a simplified shortened version of the SAT. It's, as the name suggests, it's largely to practice, right? It happens only once a year. It is administered by your respective school itself, or in some cases, if your school does not conduct it, then you can also figure out other schools in your city which conduct this exam, and you can go ahead and write this exam. You can take this PSAT in grade 8, grade 9, grade 10th. This is more for practice purposes only. There's an important thing here. If you write your PSAT in grade 11, and if in case you are a US citizen, the child is a US citizen, then PSAT in grade 11th is also known as NMSQT, which is National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, right? Now, this is important because this is only and only applicable A, for US citizens, B, if in case you are in grade 11. So irrespective of whether you have done your SAT before or your PSAT later, that's completely fine. But if you are a US citizen and you are in grade 11, you should write your PSAT because it will help you to see if you can get some scholarships here. Now, in terms of SAT, how it is different, you still have all the 4 sections: reading, writing, maths, no calculator, maths calculator. There's no essay section. In the reading section, in SAT, you have a total of 52 questions and you have 65 minutes. In PSAT, you have a 47 questions and you have 60 minutes. In writing, you have a total of 44 questions and 35 minutes. In SAT, again, you have a total of 44 questions and 35 minutes. So writing section, it's same. It's in the reading section where they've reduced the time and they've also reduced the number of questions. Similarly, in maths, no calculator section, you have 17 questions, 25 minutes, as compared to SAT where you have 20 questions and 25 minutes. Again, in calculator section, 31 question, 45 minutes, as opposed to 38 question, 55 minutes. So these two things, if you look at it, they've reduced the time here, and they've also reduced the number of questions, right? So PSAT, as I said, is a simplified shorthand version of SAT. They're just trying to give you a glimpse in terms of how the SAT, real SAT looks like. Please ignore this part. There's no essay component, whether it's PSAT or SAT now. In terms of the scoring, PSAT is out of 1520, as opposed to SAT, which is out of 1600. The highest that you can get in SAT is 1600, 200 to 800 in English, and 200 to 800 in maths, as opposed to 160 to 760 in English and 160 to 760 in maths in PSAT. Now, with that, we have covered the SAT and ACT and PSAT. Now there is an important exam which is called advanced placement, and a lot of parents and students are not aware about this particular test. It's an important one to understand as well. But predominantly, again, if in case you are looking to go abroad, and specifically US, especially this particular exam, right? Now, what is advanced placement? So just like, let me compare it in Indian scenario. We have CBSE, ICSE, IGCSE, IB, we have all these different curriculums, right? Similarly, AP is a curriculum in US, right? Which is not a US curriculum. It's followed by a lot of schools in US, that's it, right? So it's a well-recognized curriculum there. So if in case you are doing in AP as a curriculum, you can't do while you're in India, but you can appear as a private candidate and you can write few AP exams. Now, why should you do that? There are various reasons why you should be doing it. First of all, it helps you to stand out in college admission. Think about it. There'll be, lakhs of students from India who are applying to US. Now, you need more and more factors to showcase that you are better than your peers, right? Now, advanced placement course becomes one of such parameter which helps you to stand out in your college application process, right? Because if you've done 2 or 3 advanced placement courses, you can showcase that you are good at these subjects. And also remember, they probably don't understand the CBSE and ICSE curriculum, whereas they would understand a little bit more about IB. And as much as I understand today's audience, I think we have most of these students who are from CBSE and ICSE background or state board background, right? So also remember, when the child is going to an international school, which is an IB or an IGCSE school or an A-level school, they get credits. They get credits which they can use in college. However, when we are coming from CBSE, ICSE, ISC, or state boards, we don't get any credit for the courses that we do in grade 12, right? And hence, AP courses can help you to gain those credits which you have not because of doing the Indian curriculum, right? So AP also helps you to gain college credit. Now, how does college credit helps? Now, when you are in US, any university, when you apply to, there is a certain requirement of college credits that you have to gain to graduate from that university, right? So if you have gained certain credits while you are in India itself, you have saved cost, because every credit that you earn in US is money paid there, right? For every credit, you pay almost about $1,000 to $1,500. However, if you have gained credits while you are in India itself by writing this exam, you are saving that money. So that's one. Second, you save time, because, for example, if in case you take an AP course, for example, AP calculus course, right? If you have done an AP calculus course while you are in India, and so AP is on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the maximum, 1 being the lowest. If you get a 5 on 5 in AP calculus test, that means you get roughly about 4 to 5, you get roughly about 5 to 8 college credits, which also means that you can skip the college level semester 1, semester 2, and semester 3 math courses. You don't have to do these courses because you have already showcased that you are good at college level math by writing an AP exam, right? So that's an important factor, because you're saving money, you're saving time as well. It also helps you if in case you want to do another minor alongside, it'll help you to graduate early also, right? And one of the important factor that it helps you to stand out in the college admission process, right? So these are the various reasons why you should think about taking an AP test. However, a very, very important thing here is AP happens only once a year, which is in the month of May. So every year in the month of May, you have AP exam, and hence you need to have a very, very proper planning in line if in case you wish to write an AP exam. So if you are, and when can you write an AP exam? Again, AP scores are valid for 5 years. You could write it in grade 9, you could write it in grade 10, you could write it in grade 11th. You could also actually write it in grade 12th. However, if you write it after grade 12th, the first purpose, that stand out in college admission, will no longer be there. You're only doing it for college credits then. That's the major difference that will happen if in case you write after grade 12th, right? Now that's, advanced placement itself is an entire workshop in itself. If parents are interested about having that webinar or workshop, we can do it sometime in the future later as well. But meanwhile, we can share the link of our past webinars that we've done on the advanced placement, in case you would be interested to know in detail about advanced placement, because that itself is about a 30-35 minute topic, right? So you can go through that entire presentation. If there are more questions, we're happy to answer those questions as well. Because advanced placement test happens for almost about 25 to 30 subjects. You can write it in, calculus, statistics, physics, chemistry, bio, microeconomics, macroeconomics, psychology, computer science, and there are a lot of other subjects that you can take advanced placement courses for. Now, with that, let me move on to the next part, which is the testing timelines. How does the testing timelines looks like, right? Now, if you really look at this entire exam cycle, the college, as I said, US college admission is very, very different. The journey is almost about 4-year journey minimum, grade 9, 10th, 11, 12. The earlier you start, the better it is. The profile building aspect. Now, when you're applying to US colleges, it's not just your scores. There are various factors that comes into play for your admission. One of them is your academics, which is your grade 9, 10th, 11th, and 12th scores. 12th predicted, obviously. Second is your standardized test score, which is your SAT or ACT or the AP score. And the third one is your profile building. Profile building is nothing but your internship, your projects, your research papers, your community service, if in case you have done anything in sports, music, and things like that, right? So all of that is your profile development. So you will be doing that for the 4 years, which is grade 9 to grade 12. While you are doing that, you're also trying to figure out where you can plug in these standardized tests, right? For example, PSAT, as I said, is something that you could take up in grade 9th. You could also take that in grade 10th. If you are a US citizen, you should also take it up in grade 11, because as I said, it's also known as NMSQT, National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. When you're in grade 10th, you could write the SAT and ACT diagnostic test to figure out whether you are more suitable for an SAT or an ACT. And once you decide that, you can start your prep either in grade 10th itself, or you should definitely start in the summer break of your grade 10. That means right after you're done with your boards, the break that you get, that's the ideal time. That's the only summer break that you will get free. That's the time where you should start your SAT, ACT full prep. And then you should write your SAT while you are in grade 11th itself. Please note, this is very, very critical here. It's very different from Indian admissions. Unlike Indian colleges where, you write your board and then you think about write all the exams and then the admission happen. That's not the case here. Here, you will finish off your SAT, ACT by grade 11th itself. In grade 10th, grade 10th by this time, let's say if the child is in grade 12 right now, the college application process will start. You will start applying to the colleges now, right? Because there are deadlines by 15th of October, by 15th of December, by 15th of November, you would have applied to most of the colleges that you would like to go to, right? So the entire admission process actually happens while you're in grade 12, unlike India where the admission process happens after you are done with your grade 12th, right? That's a very, very major difference, and hence you have to start early. Similarly, about the AP, as I said, there are students who write it in grade 9th and grade 10th as well. But if not, then you should definitely do it in grade 11th. You can also write it in grade 12th, as I said it in the past. But if you're writing it in grade 12, then obviously you are not doing it for college credits. When you're doing it in grade 12th, you're only doing it for college credit. You're not doing it for college application. That's the major difference here about the APs, if in case you decide to write it in grade 12, right? So this is an important timeline that you should stick by, because as I said, it varies and it's very different from our Indian college admissions. With that, let me move on to the next part. And I think this is something which is a lot of parents here are interested in. As I've mentioned in the past that, there are a lot of universities in India. As we are talking, there are more universities which are getting added up, which also accept SAT scores now. Some of the Indian university which accept SAT scores are listed here: Ashoka, Azim Premji, Flame, Kriya, Manav Rachna, Plaksha, Srivnadar. These are few of the universities, but here is the link at the bottom, and we'll share this link with all of you guys later. you can go to this link. This keeps on getting updated, almost every month, wherein the list of more and more universities which have started accepting SAT scores is being added. There are already about 35, 40 universities, which is already there in this list as of today. So these are all the universities. However, please note, you also need to see that for this particular university, for what courses are they accepting SAT scores, right? For example, here, SRM Institute of Science and Technology, they may not be accepting the SAT scores for engineering, let's say, right? They might be accepting it for, let's say, BCA or BCom or BSc, maybe for some other programs. So you'll have to also look at that. Don't just look at the university, also look at the course that you want to apply for. Now with that, let me move on to our pedagogy at ReWiser, how we help students. As I said, we do SATs, ACTs, and AP prep. However, by and large, our pillars and philosophies remains the same. And in today's, for pedagogy, I've picked up SAT and ACT as an example. We call it as a 4-phase approach, phase 0, 1, 2, and 3. Phase 0 is only about doing a diagnostic test, which is largely for the child to figure out whether they are more suitable for an SAT or for ACT. Once that gets done, we move to phase 1. Phase 1 is where the classroom training happens. There is roughly about 50 hours of classes, which includes your maths, English, which include reading, writing, and the science component. Every session that the child does, and every session here is a 2.5 hour long class. And after every 2.5 hour long session, there's roughly about 2.5 hour longs of assignment that the child has to do, which help us to figure out, which is basically the reason why we have 2.5 hour long classes. We want the child to become comfortable sitting for longer hours. I think that's the idea of keeping the longer sessions. After every session, the student has to update this course in something called a score tracker. And these score trackers are being utilized in the next phases. So after this classroom training is done, we move to phase 2. Phase 2 is the point where we do a lot of sectional tests. This is the point where we assign a dedicated mentor to every student. This mentor will look at student scores from phase 1 assignments and figure out the areas where child has done well and the areas where the child still needs to work upon. And based on that, they will make a customized study plan for this individual. So this is what happens in phase 2, and this is where the child is doing a lot of sectional tests. Once this gets over, we move to phase 3. Phase 3 is predominantly about full-length mock tests, where student is doing at least about 15 to 20 full-length tests before they write their final exam. And every test that they write, they get a detailed report analysis saying what areas they've done well, what areas they need to improve, and so on and so forth. So that's become the part of phase 3. And even at this point of time, there's a mentor that is associated with this child who is keeping a track of student progress. And at any point of time, if they feel the progress is not as per plan, then the course correction is being taken by this mentor, all in confidence with the parent as well, right? So that is how the entire training sort of works. We have different modules that we run, starting from full training, the one that I've just explained it to you, to SAT study plan, wherein somebody doesn't have to take phase 0, phase 1. They don't have to take classes. They can straight away move to phase 2, phase 3, right? Where they're taking mentor support and full-length test and or self-paced materials. We also have our online courses. They can directly take those online courses and not take the live classes. Then they also have programs like SAT Lite, which is nothing but you only do the practice test, right? Which is just the phase 3. So there are different permutation and combination with regards to the modules which are available, which student can take depending on what they feel is necessary, required for them. That's how all these programs are being decided. And obviously this is something that we recommend after talking to the parents of the student one-on-one. There are different recommendations that are being given from our end accordingly. With that, I think that brings me to the end of today's presentation, where I've covered the SAT, ACT, and APs fully in detail and given most of the details that I could during this time. Now I'll open the floor for Q&A sessions. And obviously I'll try and take questions, first of all, from the chat section.
Thank you, Rajdeep. Very informative. But the crowd of this group is mostly looking for Indian colleges. Around 5 to 10% are looking for abroad placements. But
Okay.
yes, in 10th, they are not decided. Many of them, they decide in 11th and 12th that the child should go abroad, and it's very late.
Right.
And SAT, AP, and ACT is still a side of education where people are not very much aware of the exam. So it's really like, I've been in this education field for so many years, but it was very informative for me too, because I didn't know that so many exams are happening through the year. So thank you so much. Yeah, parents, please. It's very late when you decide in 12th, and also if you're a parent of 10th grader, I think it's the right time to ask him any doubts. And very good, you've mentioned all the universities of India which are looking at SAT scores.
Correct.
Especially these Azim Premji and Ashoka and Kriya, they are all Shiv Nadar, they are all doing so well now.
Correct.
So people can get into these colleges with a good SAT scores. They don't even have to take tension of anything else, I think, right?
Correct. Exactly. So, there are two ways in which you can get into these universities, like Ashoka, Azim Premji. They all have their own test. Either you write like tests for 4 different universities, or you just write one test, right? So it's always better to just write one test and submit this score to all the universities, right? So that's the advantage. So I can see a few questions here.
Yeah, please answer them.
Okay, Mr. Parth, sir, what if one wants to go abroad for postgrad instead? How useful are these tests for that? Path, postgrad is different path altogether. This is purely for undergrad. For postgrad, you have to look at GRE and GMAT, right? So they are very different tests as this.
But the pattern may be somewhat similar, right?
The pattern would be somewhat similar, correct?
Yeah.
Pattern would be somewhat similar for the exam, but the journey is very, very different. So you will have to start thinking about that 4 years down the line, right? Because if the focus is purely India, then you shouldn't be looking at these tests as such, right? Unless you are looking at Ashoka, Azim Premji, and these sort of universities, then even SAT sort of makes sense. Okay, another question from Ms. Geeta. If you write SAT multiple times, which score will be considered for college admission abroad? Great question, Geeta. So there are different set of universities, right? So one set of university which will say submit all your score, irrespective of what score you got in. Second set of university which will say submit the best score, so you can decide. Third set of university which will say submit the best super score, so you can pick English from one and maths from the other one. So that's how you can submit the score. So it all depends on which university you're applying, and based on that you have to submit these scores based on how they are asking. Path, do AP tests help for postgrad? No, Path, AP tests don't help for postgrad at all. That's again for the undergrad. Yeah, so these are the questions that I can see right now on the chat section. If there are more. And as you said, we'll be sharing the recording. So you guys, I know it might be too much of content download, in 30-35 minutes. So please go over it. And if there are more questions, feel free to reach out to us, and happy to answer those questions. Okay, another question from Meet. How do we go about doing research on internships in grade 10 to 12th? So Geeta, there are different things, right? You have to reach out to your network, right? That's one thing that you'll have to use. If in case you think that's not working out, then obviously, there are companies which help you do this, right? So there are companies which help you with the college counseling part. You can get in touch with us. We can help you with that, wherein we help you with the research and internship aspect as well, right? So the entire profile building part, right? So which start as early as grade 9. So grade 9, 10th, 11th, 12th, you work for 4 years in building your profile towards a particular college or geography per se, right? So you can, if in case you think you have enough time and you have enough network, then you can use your network. Otherwise, you can use avail services by other companies who do this. Another question from Mr. Sridhar. Any scholarship from abroad university based on score? Yes, Sridhar. So there are scholarships, definitely. So the reason why we are having this presentation also today is, even if you have not thought about it until now, no harm in going and checking it back, right? That would it even make sense? Because there is merit scholarship and there is merit cum need scholarship, right? So there is always need-based scholarship which US offers, right? If in case you are really good at, the child is really good in terms of, the profile and everything, you can always apply to a university which is willing to give you a need-based scholarship. And there are a lot of such universities which provides need-based scholarships. Obviously, you'll have to slightly compromise in terms of the, let's say, the ranking of the university. But let me tell you one thing. I mean, any university that you pick in US, for example, in the first 50 or first 100 top 100 university, barring the first top 5 or 10 in India, they will always be better off, right? Just because of the quality of education that they possess, or the kind of infrastructure that they have for the research and everything, it gives a very, very different exposure altogether. So if in case there is a possibility for somebody who thinks they can afford it, if there is a viability, if it's a viable option, and I would say there's no harm in going back and doing some research on it. How will ACT help, or only SAT enough? It's either or. You don't have to write both. You could write SAT or ACT, right? It's two different companies fighting for the same set of students. So you don't have to write both. You can write one of them. However, as I said it in the past, if in case you're looking India also as a target country, then in that case, only look at SAT and not ACT, because ACT is not acceptable in India in any university. It's only SAT which is acceptable by about 40 universities. So that's something that you will want to keep in mind.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Selecting between SAT and ACT, yeah. Yeah, any other questions that we have here? Okay, I don't think we have any questions.
Scores, Rajdeep, what are good scores to get into the top universities, moderate and average universities? I mean, like normal universities. What are the good scores in SAT?
Great, good question. Good question, Shaya. Thanks. I forgot to mention that actually. So let me give you an example. So SAT is out of 1600 points. So 1500 out of 1600 is a 99th percentile.
Okay.
So that means you are in the top 1 percentile bracket, right? So anything above 1500 is considered to be an excellent score. 1550 plus is a very, very good score, right? Now 1450 to 1500 is a 97, 98 percentile, right?
Okay.
So let's say if you want to get into top,
let's say Stanford, Harvard kind of universities.
Okay, let me put the context first. No college, I mean, I have had students who got a 1590 out of 1600, but didn't get into any of these top universities, right? Okay. So the reason why I mentioned this is that SAT ACT will not guarantee you admission in top university, right? Because there are other aspects also. That's where Indian admission and US admissions are very, very, very different, right? In India, it's very straightforward. You get the score, you get admission. There is a cutoff, right? But in US, that's not how it works, right? SAT is one parameter. Your school academics from 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th is one parameter. Your profile building is another parameter. The essays that you have written is another parameter. The letter of recommendations given by your teachers is another parameter. The essay that you have written is another parameter, right? Now, all of this put together will make your file for the admission, right? So SAT is probably 20-25% in your entire picture, right? And hence, but if in case you wish to apply to the top, let's say 20 colleges, you have to have 1500 plus, right? Or if you wish to apply to the top 100 colleges, then you have to have 1450 plus, right? So that's how it works. Once you get that score, it's not mandatory or it's not given that you will get admission, but you have a higher chance of getting admissions, right? So that's how it sort of works. And on the other hand, if you look at ACT, 34 out of 36 is a 99th percentile. So anything above 34 is a good score. It's a very good score, right? And then 33 is a 98th percentile. And then 30 is a 90th percentile. So that's how the scoring happens. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, yes. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, good enough.
Great.
So parents, any other doubts, please ask him. Otherwise, we can call off the meeting. Rajdeep, I'm so thankful to you. Though you are not feeling well, you've taken time out and, helped our students. So I'll keep
problem,
it
Chai, ma'am.
with Dipali also, and I'll keep her updated. If
Definitely.
any other requirements are there, because the people will have requirements for profile building also.
Correct.
The entire profile building, because as we are aware of the Indian entrance exams, we are not as aware of how to go to the other universities and the other colleges abroad.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. No, more than happy, Chai, ma'am. As I said, you know, uh, I think the idea was today to give a glimpse, at least leave a thought for the parents to, go back and think about it. Is this even a viable option? Personally speaking, the most, cost-wise viable option is to do for masters. But if in case for someone, I mean, now you wouldn't believe that the number of students who are going abroad in undergrad has increased drastically over the last 2-3 years, actually 4-5 years. Only in the pandemic, I think there was a hit for 1 or 2 years, but otherwise, the number is in boom. Because what happens when it's a lot easier to get into a top college for undergrad as opposed to get into the masters. That's also one of the reason why people, if in case they can afford it, they're trying to send the kid for the undergrad itself, right? So it's just a food for thought for everyone to think about it. And obviously in India as well, SCT has started SCT is being accepted by a lot of universities in India also. So if in case you're looking to apply to any of these Ashoka, these universities are doing great. In that case also you can look about SCT. Yeah.
So you are not at all coaching for GRE and GMAT and all these exams, the postgrad?
That's right, Chaya. We don't do it. As of now, we stick to very, very focused towards undergrad market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
We'll
still
soon
that
be launching it.
GMAT market is also very much requiring coaching.
That's right. It's already there, ma'am. It's just that we are right now we are very, very focused even on this, but we will launch it. I think in the next 6-8 months, we would probably be launching the GRE as well. Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Great. I think these are all the questions that we had. Thanks everyone. Thanks everyone for joining in. Thanks for staying
I had
this
just
long.
one last question. Sorry.
Yeah,
just one small question. Let's say my child has not taken up a subject which is required for her undergraduation. Can she cover that up in her AP in her 12th?
Yes, exactly. You're right. That's one of the way in which it kind of works.
It works, is it? So there would be universities which, because India just offers 4 options, right?
Right.
So there are not more than 4, and then it becomes difficult to choose the stream.
Right.
And some of the good streams, they require multiple options which are not, valid in the CBSE stream.
Exactly.
So let's say she needs computer science or she needs another subject. So she could do that in her 12th and use it in her application?
Definitely. She should do it in her 11th and use in her application, right? Because 11th and end of 11th, right? The May.
No, my child is in the 12th now. And if I'm looking at the summer applications in May, let's say I look at the May applications next year.
In that case, she'll have to take a gap year.
She has to take an entire year as a gap,
right?
Is it?
Yeah, otherwise at least a 6 month, right? Because the application for your daughter is starting now. She should start applying now.
But that is for the. But no. Let's say it has to.
So there are 2 cycles.
Next
One
year.
is she'll start next year August, right? And then the second cycle is next year January.
Yeah.
Right. So for next year August, she has to start applying now.
No, I'm talking about Canadian universities. As far as I have
even
heard,
for Canadian
they have
university,
an
you
intake
have to
in January.
apply.
Then there's an
Sorry?
Okay. There are different intakes, right? There is a May intake, then there is a September intake, then there is a January intake and a April intake. 4 different applications for the same universities.
There are generally 2 intakes. I'm not sure if there's for any specific university or something, but generally there is fall and spring.
Okay.
Right, that's how the application process works, right? So the one which starts after us, let's say the first thing that starts is in the August-September timeframe, right?
Correct.
That's the
Yes.
first, and then the second that starts in the December-January. These are the 2 intakes.
Second one starts in the December-January. Okay.
That's right. After 6
So
months.
so you say there is nothing in the May?
There's nothing in the May.
No.
There's nothing in the May.
Okay.
Yeah. Even in Canada, there's nothing in the May.
There's nothing. So my child
Correct.
wouldn't be able to use AP for that particular.
No.
No.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Rajdeep, one last question.
Yeah, sure.
Are you people coaching for AP?
We do.
Acha. So another question, what level should they be at if you have to coach? Supposing the child has not taken maths in 11th and 12th, and he's applying in a university where maths is a basic requirement, then what kind of support can your company give?
They shouldn't be applying then.
Oh.
Because, yeah, they shouldn't be applying because, US or UK or any of these geographies, they look very highly on maths. They need students to take maths, right? So, I mean, in that case, they shouldn't have dropped maths. If they've dropped maths, now it becomes really, really difficult for them to actually do a lot of courses. If somebody has dropped maths.
In India, there are these universities like VIT, Vellore Institute of Technology, right? So basically for an engineering, you need maths in 11th and 12th.
Correct.
So what has VIT done? It has said, okay, we'll give you some kind of, a bridging course in maths for a biotechnology kind of admission, because biotechnology per se will not require that much of maths. Whereas some universities in India, I mean in Bangalore, have refused admission itself without maths.
Correct.
So,
so
this is
in US, UK, they will not give you admissions in any of the biotech, any tech for that matter, without the maths. If you don't have the maths, they will not. It's a mandatory requirement.
What kind of AP support can you give?
So there are different AP subjects like AP calculus. So okay, I'll give you an example, right? When you can take an AP, for example, the student has done.
I hope you're not tired, Rajdeep.
No problem, Chaya. I can still manage. Yeah. So let's say if the student has done physics, chemistry, math, and computer science in CBSE, right? And now when they're applying to college, they want to showcase that you are really good at these subjects, right? Apart from your CBSE. So what they can do is they can do AP calculus, they can do AP physics mechanics, they can do AP physics electricity magnetism, they could do AP chemistry, right? So there are different options. There are different options that they can pick and choose from. In some cases, what they can also do is, so sometimes what happens, a student in grade 11 would not have realized that they might want to do something in the business school, right? Let's say they might want to do BBA or something. However, they had taken physics, chemistry, maths, right? So what they can do is they can take economics as an AP subject.
Okay.
Right. So they can do AP microeconomics and AP macroeconomics and then apply to School of Economics abroad, right? Because they already have maths and economics they have done through the AP. So they can apply.
Okay, how about computer science as the fifth option? Because some of the universities ask for maths and computer science to get into IT.
Right.
Not some, most of them ask for these two combinations. And my child has just done her maths. She doesn't have the computer science with her.
So I most of them will not ask you to have computer science as a subject to do computer science engineering. However, she might struggle when she goes there, right? So it's good if she has done these courses like AP course or something, because that will help her to have a baseline already.
Okay. So I was just speaking with some of the, members of the university for admission, and they required computer science. And
right. As I said, it will vary from university to university.
Okay.
Right? But if you look at US mostly, it's not mandatory. As long as you have a computer science, you have physics, you have chemistry, you're good. You're good to apply to any of the engineering per se.
Okay.
Right? However, if you have computer science as a subject, your chances to get admission increases.
Yes.
Right? Because your profile becomes better now.
Okay.
Right? As I
But
said, it's very
the
different
Canadian
from,
universities, are you, aware of that, sir? I mean,
yeah. Even Canadian
Okay.
universities don't mandate it, right? I've
Okay.
had students who didn't have computer science and they're doing computer science in University of Waterloo, University of Toronto, right?
Oh, really? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not mandatory that you have to have computer science. I mean, the student that I'm talking to, they were from NPS, physics, chemistry, math, economics,
Oh, acha, okay.
and they're doing computer science, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's just that uh, your chances to get computer science will become better if in case you have computer science in your school as well, because your
Okay.
profile looks better now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now,
Yeah.
even if she is not doing her AP computer science, she still has a chance, according to
She
you.
still has a chance. Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Correct.
Thank
But
you, sir.
as
Thank
I said, please do check it university by university, right? Because
Right.
these things changes university to university wise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
So my brother's son, he's
Right,
a
sir.
US citizen and he studied in Greenwood High. This,
Okay.
this August, or he's leaving in a week's time. He's
Right.
got into UIUC, University of
Right.
Illinois Urbana-Champaign, but he's not studied chemistry per se in his 11th and 12th, but
Correct.
he's got to computer engineering. So chemistry and physics also both are not required, or is it like that?
Yeah. So both are not. Yeah. So you can have, one with that also. So you have to have maths for sure. And between
For sure.
physics and chemistry, you can have one.
One.
Right?
Oh, this
It's
is something
not
very
like India.
important.
That's
So
where it's slightly different.
just tell the parents, because chemistry, though I'm a chemistry teacher, that is a very big, problem with some of the students. They don't want to
Right.
study chemistry to get into an engineering college.
Right.
So I
However,
think
the another point, Chaya, is that, based on my experience, US gives a lot of weightage to chemistry, right? For some reason, they believe that chemistry, is more fundamental subject and everybody should know it, right?
yes.
But it still depends. Like if you want to apply for chemical, biochemical and things like that, then chemistry and bio become a lot more important. But let's say computer science and things like that, then they kind of let go even if in case you don't have
Yeah.
chemistry,
So
right?
he's doing his undergrad in computer science.
Computer science, yeah, correct. So yeah, exactly. So and that's where it sort of helps. So if you look at IB, they don't even allow you to do, he can't do two sciences as HL in his school, higher
Yeah.
level. So in IB,
Yes.
they have higher level and standard level courses.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
He can only do certain higher level courses. So those students, what they do is when they have a restriction, they will try and do the AP course for the subject that they can't do higher level in school, right? To compensate for it. So AP is used in different ways by different students.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how it sort of
I
works.
think the parent, it would have been clear that you can enter into a computer science field with PCM combination.
Correct.
Yes. And in
Correct.
India as well as abroad. But as you said, the profile needs to be very strong for a computer science.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to take
in abroad, Chaya, not in
Yeah.
India. In India, you
Not
have
in
to have
India.
chemistry.
Yeah.
In India,
Yeah.
you have to have chemistry. So that's where these two geographies are different. So in India or in UK also, they're very rigid, right? Let's say if today I get into computer science, I have to stick to computer science. But in US, I can go and apply as undecided major, right?
Yeah.
Where I don't know what I want to do, but I just want to get into your college. So I'll get into the college, and then in the next 1 year, I'll do multiple courses and figure out what I want to do, right? So they give you a lot of freedom that way, right? That's the difference.
Yes.
Right? That US gives you a lot more flexibility. It gives you a lot more flexibility in their entire system, in their entire education system. Even after 2 years, if you want to change your major, you could do that, though it will be expensive, but then you can do it, right? So basically, the major difference is that flexibility, right? If you're not very sure what you really want to do at the age of 17, US might be a better option because it gives you more flexibility. But I mean, you obviously need to utilize that flexibility in the right way also. That's also an important thing because otherwise you can just get lost.
I think 9th and 10th is the right age to get in touch with your team. Yeah, because I think it's very, or even 11th is okay.
Even 11th is fine.
Late. 12th is
definitely late. 12th is definitely late.
Yeah.
See, in
so
12th, then there is hardly anything left.
Yeah. So even I could understand what's actually this. So though the numbers are slightly less today, though more people had signed up, I think because the schools are working, and this didn't register in our minds that 13th would have been a better weekend. But
Okay.
13th being a long weekend, we thought people will be traveling.
Traveling, yeah. No problem. I think we'll
Yes.
share the recording, and if
Ah,
required next month, next to
yeah.
next month, we can do it again. Not a problem at all.
Yeah. And or sometime we can have a, a personal
A personal one as well.
one-to-one.
I'm in Bangalore.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. You are in Bangalore, based out of
I'm in
Bangalore?
Bangalore. I'm
Yes.
based out of Bangalore.
Oh, then that's good. We are in Banaswadi area. The
Perfect. I'm in
Bangalore.
Koramangala.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So nice. Thank you so much. Though you are not feeling well and we've taken your time out.
No
Good.
problem,
We are
Chaya.
very.
So,
Thank you so much. Yeah.
So thank you, Shaya ma'am, and thanks a lot, Rajdeep, for taking the session, even you are not well. So thanks all
No
of you.
problem.
Thanks, parents.
Thank you, Rajdeep and Chaya ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Chaya ma'am and Rajdeep.
Okay, then we are leaving the meeting.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Take
Bye,
care. Stay
everyone.
safe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.